Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Southern Fried Podcast, a production of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I'm Rex Nelson, senior editor of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and we're going to talk one of my favorite subjects, and that is food on today's show. And one of the iconic Arkansas food families, all I have to say is McClard, and you know we've got Phillip McClard in. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Love talking McClards, love talking food. Thank you. And appreciate you being with us. So you are what generation now of the McClard family being involved in the restaurant business?
I'm the third generation.
Third generation,
yes.
Okay. Take us back to the first. I mean, I've written about the history. I know a lot of people know it, but a lot of listeners probably don't. So take us back to the first, how the iconic McClard's Barbecue got started from a tourist court in Hot Springs.
Yeah. In 1928, that's when my grandfather, Alec McClard, and Gladys, that's my grandmother, Grandpa used to work at a warehouse, and he used to barbecue a little bit for the guys, and some old man told him, said, Alec, you need to get into the barbecue business. So fast forward, I don't know how long, he opens a tourist court on Albert Pike, had a little gas station, and had a little barbecue place inside the gas station.
Right.
A few tables, not many. And that's in 1928.
1928, yeah. And, of course, Hot Springs was booming at the time, one of the top health resorts in America at the time. So you literally had people coming there from all over the nation in 1928.
And then Hot Springs always did good during the Depression, too, because of, illegal gambling and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people still came to Hot Springs and spent a few bucks.
Yeah.
Even during the Depression, it held up pretty good.
Yeah, so they had a restaurant associated with the tourist court?
Yeah, it wasn't much. It was just a little small thing. Probably didn't have 2 or 3 tables in there.
Yeah.
And Grandpa did everything. They pumped gas. They rented out the cottages to people. Mm-hmm. And supposedly that's where the recipe for the barbecue sauce came from. There was somebody renting a room there, and he couldn't pay his rent. So he gave my grandfather and grandmother a recipe for some barbecue sauce. And that's where the barbecue sauce came from.
Now, has that recipe, have you toyed with it through the years, or is it still pretty much the same as the original?
I think it's the same.
Wow.
I would love to go back in time and ask Grandpa, okay, is this what I'm doing? Is this exactly what you did? I'd love to go back in time, but I can't, of course.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, it's the same. My father did it, after Grandpa, and then my brother did it some, and I did it now. I do it now.
So it really has not changed that much since then.
It's pretty simple.
But you keep it secret.
Oh, yeah. Keep it locked up.
Now, my understanding was that the original barbecue was goat. Is that correct?
That was huge back in the 20s and 30s.
Oh, yeah. My dad, who grew up during the Great Depression in Benton, would talk about 4th of July. They would always bury a goat and smoke it overnight for the 4th in a sandbar on the Saline River. So I know goat was big back then.
Yeah, goat was Grandpa sold a lot of goat. There was a guy didn't live too far from where Grandpa was, and that he raised goats and he slaughtered goats, and Grandpa would get the meat. And they did sell a lot of goat, some beef and pork. Ribs back then weren't like they are now. That Grandpa used to throw the ribs. Grandpa would throw the ribs out the back door, and the dogs come grab them and take off.
Yeah.
But as through the years.
So they just wanted the chopped and the smoked meat at that point, not the ribs.
Right. The warehouses didn't really know how to cut ribs back in those days. Mm-hmm. Didn't know how to process them. But now you've got ribs is huge now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Baby backs, spare ribs, St. Louis ribs.
Yeah.
So it's really evolved through the years. as a delicacy, I guess you'd say.
Absolutely. Any idea when you finally gave up the goat? How long did that live?
I'm not real sure, and Grandpa moved where we are now. We've been there since 1941.
41, okay. Well, I knew all of my life you'd been at the same location.
At the location. Yeah. And then I don't know if he sold goat there or not. I'm not really sure. He did breakfast, he did lunch, he did dinner. Mm-hmm. They were open 6 days a week. And goat just kind of faded away, I think.
Right, right. And so at some point you gave it up. Now, of course, one of your standbys on your menu, again, for as long as I can remember, has been the tamale spread. How did tamales get into the mix with barbecue?
I asked my father that years ago. I said, when, and how? Yeah, I asked my daddy the same question.
Uh-huh.
And Daddy said Grandpa came up to him one day. I'm just going to say it could have been the 40s, maybe. Mm-hmm. Not really sure of the date. And Grandpa told him that Daddy told Daddy that he's going to start doing tamales, and Daddy kind of laughed like, oh, but then it worked.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy in town in Hot Springs. There was a German man that used to sell tamales on the street. He used to make them at his house.
Okay.
And he'd take them out on the street.
Which, again, was common around Arkansas, selling tamales on the street in those days.
So Grandma and Grandpa bought the recipe from him.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think of his name. His son was a baseball player. Played professional baseball. The last name starts with the R.
Lon Warnicki? No.
No.
I'm thinking of old baseball players from Hot Springs. Of course, he was later Garland County judge, famous baseball player, yeah.
Oh, God.
That's fine.
Anyways.
That's fine. So walk me through, because I love them. Now, I'm a big old boy, as you know, but I can only do a half spread. But walk me through a spread from start to finish, what you put on each level there.
Okay. Well, the tamales are handmade, hand rolled.
You make them there at
Yes.
McClard's, okay.
I actually start the tamale process at about 3:30 in the morning.
What time do you come in?
2
Good
a.m.
gosh.
That's a.m.
Yeah, I understand.
But as far as just starting the tamale process, it starts about 3:30 every morning. You put the meat in buckets, put water in them, put meat on the stove, you boil it, and then you separate the meat from the broth, and then you add spices to the meat, spices to the broth. Then you let it sit for a while, and then you dump the corn, or you put cornmeal in the broth, and then you set that to the side. But make a long story short is that, from the time, let's say from 3:30 in the morning till about 1:30 in the afternoon, usually the last tamale's being tied. And we do anywhere from 350 to 450 tamales a day.
Wow.
And we freeze some because they freeze really good.
Right.
But that's what we do every day.
All right.
We've been doing it for years.
All right. Now, I come in and I order my half spread. Now, tell me, the tamales go first.
Yeah,
Explain how you fix the plate. Then.
You set your plate down, get your tamales on the plate.
Okay.
And then you put chips on it. You put beans.
The chips are Fritos, right?
Fritos,
okay.
corn
Fritos
chips.
on it. Yeah, corn chips.
And then you got chopped beef you put on there. You put sauce. You put onions, you put cheese if you want jalapenos. Mm-hmm. You can put jalapenos on it, whatever you want on it.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Wow, I love it.
My brother invented that.
Oh, really? I was going to ask you.
Joe.
So they were just selling before that regular tamales.
Yeah, just tamales.
He
with
came
beans.
up with the idea of the spread. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we had a dishwasher that used to drink a little beer, and he came in one day and told my brother. He said, Joe, man, I had too much beer last night. I need something to kind of coat my stomach. He had a hangover.
Morning after meal.
He had a hangover.
Yeah.
And so that's when Joe and the dishwasher started experimenting with it. Well, Joe said, well, here, let's put some corn chips on here and put some meat on it. And then we put sauce. Then we put it evolved after a little while, after a few months.
Cheese came in and onions came in. And
Billy would go out and sit at the counter and eat it, and then a customer would walk by and say, "What are you eating?" He said, "Well, Joe fixed me this," and the customer would run back there and tell Joe, "Say, man, fix me one of them."
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely.
We sell like 1 million a year, it seems like.
Wow. Oh, I love it. I love it. I have the hardest time whether to go with ribs and fries or a half spread, and I still got to have your fries with it.
Well, if you're with somebody, you just split all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually, a lot of times I'm stopping in by myself, though. That's the problem, and maybe can take some home to my wife because
my wife likes the tamale spread cold. She likes to put it in the refrigerator and let it cool down for a few hours before she eats it.
Yeah,
so she likes it cold.
Absolutely. So, what is your biggest selling item on the menu?
Probably the beef and the ribs.
Beef and ribs,
and then pork.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you sell
French fries too.
Yeah,
we sell.
I would say what I mean the French fries.
Oh my God!
Talk about how your French fries are again fresh cut. Talk about coming in the middle of the night, not frozen fries.
No, they're not frozen.
Yeah.
We wash the potatoes, and then you slice them. You pre-fry them for a while, or blanch them, as some people call it. You blanch them, let them sit for a while, and then you grab the pans as you need them during the day and finish frying them all the way through. So that's basically what that is. A lot of places do that.
Yeah.
A lot of places got away from that, then went to frozen through the years. Mm-hmm. Now a lot of places have gone back to the fresh cut fries.
Yeah.
I noticed through the years.
Which again, even with my half spread, I've got to have the fries on the side if I'm going to be at McClard's because, again, it's harder and harder to find fresh cut fries. Although, as you said, some are coming back to that.
Yeah.
So you get in at 2 a.m. Kind of walk me through your routine. Unlike I do this first. Walk me through what you're doing every morning.
I kind of check everything, make sure everything is put up right, make sure they didn't leave anything on. I check the total from the day before. I clock in. Mm-hmm. And then I usually look at what I need to do. I need to do so many pans of beans and then see how much slaw we need for the day. Judge it from the day before most of the time. Mm-hmm. And then I usually have a cup of coffee and some ice cream.
Ice cream at 2 a.m., okay.
Yeah. I sit there and think about, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then I go down and I wash the beans, because our beans are made from scratch too. Uh-huh. Everything we do down there basically is made from scratch. The beans are, Great Northern beans, they're dry. And you wash them and you put them in pots. You put them on the stove. Then you add water to them and cook them. And then you make the sauces next. The sauce is what I do next. Make it from scratch. Everything's made from scratch again. And then I make the bean mix, the mix that goes into the beans after they're done. And then I start by 3:30. I'm starting on the tamales. Then,
Okay. About 3:30 you start on them. And then take me on after that.
Yeah.
After that,
you got everything on the stove cooking.
All right, so the sun's coming up now, 5 or 6. Where are you then?
Well, I get my beef and pork out, and I trim it up. I trim what I need for the day, or I think I'm going to need, at least to get us started for the day.
Get it started.
And then the trimmings that I don't use, now that's what goes into the tamales.
Okay, okay.
So that's what you got to have your trimmings for the tamales.
To make the tamales.
That's what Grandpa, I think, was wanting to do because he had a lot of trimmings that he probably had to throw away. Mm-hmm. And Grandpa's thinking, like, this meat isn't that bad, but you don't want to serve your customer that meat as a sliced meat. And that's what Grandpa wanted to do, was utilize the trimmings. And I think most tamales are made from that kind of meat,
Yeah. Now, what time do your line cooks start coming in to help you out?
Well, actually, I got a guy that actually meets me there at 2:00.
Oh,
now,
wow.
He don't start till 4.
Yeah, but he'll be up there.
He just kind of hangs around.
Gotcha.
His
Good.
name's Johnny.
Good. You're not alone.
He stays, and he clocks in at 4, and then I have 2 more guys that come in at 5 a.m.
Come in at 5. Wow.
Yeah. Then I got a girl that comes in at she comes in at 8.
Yeah.
And helps do some stuff with us.
All right, let's talk about the actual smoking process then. What do you use as far as your smokers? When is, how many hours is the meat smoked? What time of day is that done? And all?
Yeah. Okay. So the guys, they go down and build the fire in our pits. They're just old school brick oven pits.
Right.
They're old school. There's no gas. There's no electricity. It's done.
Oh, it's fascinating.
It's done the
You remember I
hard way.
came over with Channel 7 a few years ago and did a piece with you walking through all of that.
There's nothing easy about it.
Yeah.
They build the fire, get it going. Then I figure out how much meat we need to put on. And we go out to the cooler and get the meat and bring it in. And then we put it on. And then you got to keep the fire going all day.
Yeah. So the fire's burning by what, 5 a.m. or so?
Oh,
or?
no. It's usually about, they start the fire around 6. We put
Around
the meat
6,
on
okay.
at 6:30
At 6:30, okay.
a.m. And then let's say 6:30 that night, you're probably taking the last piece of beef off or something like that.
For the next day.
Yeah.
Then. Okay. So, so you keep the fire going all day.
Got to keep the fire going. We get wood from these guys. We use strictly hickory wood. We get wood from Leon and Bill.
So you have just one supplier for your hickory? Boy, you must buy a lot of hickory.
Yeah, we do. We go through a lot, and they've been supplying us hickory. We had people before them, but Leon and Bill's been doing it for, at least 30 years.
Wow, that's great.
You know, and then you got to keep the wood on the pit. You got to regulate it, the heat yourself. Mm-hmm. You know, we got a little temperature gauge in the pits. But they're not really accurate. Okay. But you just got to eye it. Yeah. And you can tell when it's getting too hot, and then you cool it down. If it's not hot enough, then you got to throw a little extra.
So is checking on the pits one of the things you do personally too?
Oh, yeah.
You checking on the pits all day?
Oh, as long as I'm there, and then another crew comes in at 11. We got another crew, and then they finish up with. I got a boy.
So getting there at 2. What time do you call it a day generally?
Normally, I'm supposed to call it a day at 11, but most of the time I get out of there about noon.
Oh, really? You're there almost to lunchtime then? Yeah. Wow, that is a long work day. Mm-hmm. What time do you go to bed? I have to ask.
I actually go to bed at 4:30 in the afternoon.
Wow.
And my wife, but now she don't get up that early, so she goes to bed with me, and we watch at 4:30. We watch Jeopardy, then we watch the news.
Watch the 5 o'clock news.
You know, and then sometimes if I'm still awake,
watch the network news at 5:30. Yeah,
5:30. But most of the time, I'm usually asleep.
Sleep by 5:30. Wow. And you've been in this routine, Phillip, for how many years now?
Well, I've been doing this morning shift for about, I think, 15 years.
15, okay.
I've been working there since 1967. I think that's 55 years.
Wow, yeah.
So
coming up 56,
my dad and my mother had the morning shift for years and years and years.
Okay, so they did the mornings, and you would do afternoons back then and evenings?
Mm-hmm. I did the evening shift from 11 to 8 for 43 years.
Oh, wow.
So they finally retired. My parents did. Then my brother and my sister-in-law took it over. Mm-hmm. And then he got ill and couldn't do it anymore. So then me and my wife took over the morning shift.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Quite a routine. So,
yeah, it was a big family, you know.
And I was going to say a family business. So even before you worked full-time, you obviously would have grown up even as a child spending a lot of time at the restaurant, I would think. Yeah.
Shoot, yeah.
Doing whatever needed to be done, I guess.
You know, back when I think I was 15, 16, I worked there on the weekends. You know, just get a little A&W money or drive-in movie theater money.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Go to the movie money.
Yep.
But then in 67, I graduated high school. I joined the Air National Guard. Mm-hmm. And then, went away for my training for a few months and then came back home. And then the unit was out there in Hot Springs at the airport. My guard unit was. But then you just go back to your normal daily job if you're in the Guard.
Exactly. So did you grow up, were you near the restaurant? Were you in that neighborhood there?
Yeah, just a few blocks down the road. You know, ride your bicycle up there and get something to eat when I was a kid.
Yeah. It's a small world. I grew up going to McClard's always because we would go over to visit very close family friends. My dad's college roommate in the 40s at Ouachita was Buddy Harris, Cliff and Tommy Harris's dad,
Yes.
the famous Dallas Cowboy. And we'd go
Yes.
visit the Harrises, and we would walk to the restaurant. They lived walking
I think
distance
they
from
lived
the
down there
restaurant.
on Main
too.
Street.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know where I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when I first started as a kid, walking up with the Harrises, and fell in love with the place. And
I think Cliff was a year or two older than me.
he was. His freshman season at Ouachita would have been 66, so he would have graduated. He spent his last year at Des Arc. His dad was transferred, but he was in Hot Springs through his junior year. So, he would have been just ahead of you in
and
school.
Cliff's always been a really, really good customer.
I'm going to say still comes in, I'm sure, because he's got a place over at Mountain Harbor,
He's
I know,
a great
on the
guy.
lake. Yeah.
Cliff is a great guy. In fact, when I was a kid, we used to play football in the churchyard over there near where he lived and I lived. As kids, I didn't play football.
Yeah.
Then Cliff would come over. I remember Cliff came over one time and played football with us, all us kids. So I always tell people, I played football with Cliff Harris.
Exactly. Well, I was lucky enough 2 years ago to get to go to Canton to see him inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But he's your biggest fan. I can tell you. You ask him what the best restaurant in the world is, and he's been to a lot of them around the world, and he'll tell you McClard's right there in Hot Springs. And it seems to me that people more and more are wanting – that which is, for lack of a better word, that which is real. That's what's been around a long time, has a tradition. And so I know you get a lot of first timers still coming in because of word of mouth about the restaurant.
Yeah, we got a lot. And Bill Clinton, he had us in that book of his.
Oh, absolutely.
And we used to get, when he was president, we got a lot of business from that book, because they would come to Hot Springs. They want to see where Bill lived. They want to come there and eat
where he
other
ate.
places that he ate in Hot Springs. They said, well, what table did he sit at when him and Hillary, they came in during their honeymoon, Bill and Hillary did. And we'd say, okay, it was this table right here.
You do the table, yeah. So some of them would ask to sit at that table then, I guess.
It was a big deal. I mean, they just ate that stuff up,
Yeah.
People did.
Absolutely. We'll be back with more of the Southern Fried Podcast, but first, this break. Hi, Rex Nelson here. Thanks for listening so far. A lot of the topics we cover here on the Southern Fried Podcast and many more can be found on the pages of the Democrat Gazette. If you'd like to support this great newspaper's commitment to bringing you the latest in Arkansas news, sports, and entertainment, consider subscribing to the Democrat Gazette today. With your subscription, you'll get a digital edition of the newspaper every morning, along with the latest news and updates delivered to you on an iPad provided at no extra cost. You'll also get the same award-winning journalism you've come to expect from the Democrat Gazette, including my 3 weekly columns, plus exclusive photo galleries, videos, articles, and digital extras, all in the palm of your hand. As a bonus, we're offering a limited-time deal to our podcast listeners. To take advantage of this exclusive offer, click the link in the description or go to arkansasonline.com/podcast23. Welcome back to the Southern Fried Podcast, a production of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I have to talk about, because, the pandemic, because it was such a blow to restaurants, people not coming in anymore. Talk a little bit about how the pandemic affected you, and then the sale of the restaurant and so forth that we experienced in recent years.
Yeah, through the years, I'd lost my brother. Mom and Daddy retired. Uncle Fred, Nate Mutt, Daddy's brother, and Nate Mutt, they retired back in the 70s. And my brother-in-law and sister worked there also. After my uncle retired, my brother-in-law and sister came into the business. John Thomason and Brenda Thomason. And so it's always been quite a few family members. At one time, I think there was, let's say 10 family members working there all together when we were all there.
Right.
And that's the way it was for years. And those were during the good days back before credit cards and
Oh,
you know,
I thought the world had come to an end when you started accepting credit cards a few years ago.
We held off as long
I
as
know.
we could.
I always knew McClard's was cash only. You better bring your cash in there. Yeah.
And back then, you didn't have as many restaurants in town.
Right.
And the competition wasn't as much. You did have some, of course. But, you know, things were really hopping back in those days, really good. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, my mother and father retired. And then, you know, Joe got sick and couldn't work anymore, so they had to quit. And my brother-in-law and sister were wanting to get out of it. And then the COVID hit, you know, and so it was me and my wife, Linda, and my nephew, Scott McClard. We were the only three left down there.
Right.
And
Family
John,
members,
and John
Okay.
Thomas and my
Yep.
brother-in-law.
Yeah.
We were the only ones left in the business. The family had started to, you know, go down in the business. And then I think we had almost decided to just basically, we were just going to shut it down. After the COVID hit, it was just like a straw that broke the camel's back. We decided really.
Scott actually called me on the phone, and I said, that's unacceptable. We can't lose McClard.
Yeah. And we were going to just sell the property, I guess, and just I don't know what, you know. And then Mr. Beasley came along.
Lee Beasley,
and
who
he
already
offered
was
us-
in the restaurant business
Yeah.
in Hot Springs.
He
Yeah.
offered us a deal, and it was a good fair deal. And he wanted to know if any of us wanted to stay. And at first I said, yeah, I'll stay and train somebody and then move on. And then and Scott said he was going to stay. Mm-hmm. And my wife wanted out, so she quit. And my brother-in-law, he quit. Mm-hmm. So after I worked, they kept saying, Mr. Beasley and Dean Jennings kept saying, if you want to, you know, stay, you can, Philip. And I said, well, no, I'll train somebody, you know, not thinking real good at the time. And after a couple of weeks, I finally told Dean and Mr. Beasley, I said, you know what? What am I going to do if I get out of here?
Exactly. I'd be bored to death.
No. I mean, I still want to work.
Yeah,
But I don't know how to do anything else.
Right.
I've been doing this since I was 17.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, you know, it's scary thinking you're going to leave something you've been doing for so many years and you're going to go out and start over doing something else. And so I told them, I said, you know what, I'm going to stay. And so they were happy.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely. Hey, we're all happy that
I
that
stayed
you're
there.
still at it. Now, I know one of the things that Mr. Beasley has done is looking at using that name, looking at using those great recipes, a Little Rock location, a Malvern location that have just opened. Have you been involved in showing them this is the right way to do things?
Oh, yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
McClard
In fact, I was
way?
over at the Malvern store yesterday. They needed some beef and pork.
Oh, were you? Okay.
So I took some over there.
Are they off to a good start?
Yeah, they're doing good.
Good.
And then the Malvern store's doing good. So, you know, that's something that we never got into.
Right.
I remember people used to ask me years ago, they say, Philip, when are you going to expand? I said, you know what? If I did anything, I'd go smaller. You know?
Too much work.
They'd look
Yeah.
at me like, what? I go,
Yeah.
well, that's just the way I'm thinking, you know. But Mr. Beasley, he wants to go bigger, and that's great. You know, I'm with him. I'm with him for that.
Yeah, and the other stores are doing things the way that you do them there in Hot Springs,
Yes,
then,
right,
to
correct.
maintain the consistency in the name and whatnot. Good. Well, I hope you're not thinking about quitting anymore. I hope you're not slowing down anytime soon, Philip.
Well, I'm getting old. I'm 73,
Wow.
and I'm working like a 33-year-old.
Yeah, I
But
think that's
it
great.
actually keeps me. I gripe sometimes, and you could ask my wife. I mean, I come home, I'm so dang tired, I'm wore out, but then it actually keeps me healthy because I do pretty physical work.
Oh,
down there.
absolutely, absolutely, you
A
do.
lot
I've
of
watched you.
lifting,
Yeah,
a lot of lifting. But I'm thinking, you know.
carrying wood, whatnot. Yeah,
Yes,
lifting food.
You know,
yeah.
and I see people my age that have some of them passed on, and some of them not in great health. And then I have a lot of people my age tell me that they'll say, "Don't quit, Philip. Whatever you do, don't quit. Just
Exactly.
keep doing it, because if you do, you know, blah blah blah."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Any looking down the line, any other family members wanting to stay involved?
no, I
not
don't
really. Yeah.
No, I don't see it at all.
Yeah.
I think I'm the last. Grandpa was the first male McClard down there. I've been telling people, I said, looks like I'm the last male McClard that's going to be. And I'm the last one. Grandpa was the first. I'm the last.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to follow in his footsteps.
Absolutely. Well, thank goodness the name's living on. If anything else, it's expanding. We're about out of time, but let's say, and of course, as I mentioned, I've been going there all my life, but let's say I'm a first timer at McClard's. It's my first time. Maybe there are 2 or 3 of us, and we could share. So what should we order as first timers?
I would say get we've got loaded fries if that's what you want. That's something new that we didn't have on the menu back when we had it. We got loaded fries. A lot of people can share that, or you can share a tamale spread.
That's true.
And then get some ribs, and then some coleslaw and some French fries, because you got coleslaw's pretty sweet, and then you got the spicy on the tamale spread and the sauce. So the little sweet and spicy is always that always goes good together.
Yeah.
No matter what you eat, and then get you a cold beer or a glass of sweet tea. You're all right.
Yeah, absolutely. No thought of adding any goat back to the menu, though.
I did that one time.
Oh, did you really?
There was a guy in town that actually raised goats and butchered them, and I
so
bought
you
some
smoked
goat.
some?
I smoked some, and I just did it. I just wanted to do it. But it was actually pretty good.
I like it.
Goat
like
meat
it.
is a sweet meat. It's got a lot of bones. You got to watch out for the bones. It's really bony, but it's a sweet meat.
Yeah.
And it actually was. I really liked it.
Yeah. Well,
so I see why people ate it back in those days.
Yeah, you ought to consider that. It's a heritage item. Adding it back to the menu.
I know it.
Yeah. Phillip McClard, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
All right, Rex.
Now I'm hungry.
I'm getting kind of hungry too.
Well, it's almost your bedtime. I need to let you go. All right. Thanks to Phillip McClard of the legendary McClard's Barbecue in Hot Springs. You've been listening to the Southern Fried Podcast. I'm Rex Nelson. We'll see you the next time around. This is a production of the Arkansas Democrat Gazette.